Part 1: The Call of the Hollow. It had been years since I'd heard the call of Marrow Creek. And yet, there I was again. My boots crunched the dry, dead leaves as I stepped off the main highway and onto the weathered path. The old road, the one that had been closed for so long, was still here, hidden beneath the layers of unspoken stories and forgotten whispers. There were things here, things that shouldn't exist in a small, dying town. And yet, they did. The first thing I noticed as I drove down that road was the absence of sound. It was too quiet. Not peaceful, not still, but unnervingly quiet. No birds. No wind. No hum of tires against pavement. Just the slow churn of my engine and the pounding of my heart. I had to find out what happened. What had drawn me back after all these years? Was it the memories, the dreams, or was it something deeper? Something darker? The town was no longer the same. When I was a kid, it had been a place of life, if only just. The occasional laugh from a neighbor's porch. The smell of fresh cut wood from the lumber mill. The sound of kids playing by the river. But when I got there, it was empty. The houses were silent, boarded up. Even the street lights were dim, flickering like tired old souls. And then I saw it, the Hollow Road. Part 2: The Hollow. The Hollow was always more of a rumor than a real place. People talked about it, whispered about it in dark corners of bars, in quiet exchanges between farmers and hunters, but no one ever dared speak its name aloud. At least, not after that night. The town had always been surrounded by woods, dense and ominous. But the Hollow? It was something else. Something that lived just beyond the trees. It never showed itself to anyone who didn't already know it was there. But if you were unlucky enough to cross its path, you didn't just walk away. I stood at the edge of the road, staring into the thick line of trees. The air smelled different here, not fresh and earthy, but decayed, like something was rotting in the depths of the forest. I pulled my jacket tighter around me, feeling a chill in the air that had nothing to do with the weather. The town was behind me now. And ahead? The Hollow. I had to follow it. I had to know what had become of it and of me. Because I couldn't remember what had happened. All I knew was that I had left, and it had waited. Part 3: The Lost Boys. As I walked down the road, I could almost hear the sounds of my footsteps fading away, as though they, too, were being swallowed by the darkness. I'd heard the stories of the missing children when I was a kid, 3 boys, no older than 10. They'd gone into the woods one summer afternoon to catch frogs and never came back. At least, that's what everyone wanted to believe. But I knew better. I had seen them. I had seen them the night after they disappeared. They were standing by the river, staring at me with those cold, vacant eyes. The same boys, but not. They were wrong. Their movements were stiff, mechanical, like marionettes. They didn't speak. They just watched. I hadn't told anyone about that. Not my parents. Not the sheriff. Because I knew they wouldn't believe me. They never believed anyone who claimed the Hollow had anything to do with it. That was something people kept to themselves. I kept walking. The sun was dipping lower now, casting long shadows across the road. I could hear something in the distance. A rustling. A whisper. Something moving in the woods. I stopped, my breath caught in my throat. Was it them? I stepped forward, deeper into the forest, following the sound. And then I saw it. Part 4: The cabin. The cabin appeared out of nowhere. One moment, there was nothing but trees, and then the next a dark, weathered silhouette stood at the edge of the clearing. A cabin. The kind of place you'd expect to see in old ghost stories. The windows were dark, as though no one had been inside for years, but the door? It was wide open. I stepped inside without thinking. And immediately, the air changed. It wasn't just the mustiness of abandoned wood. It was something heavier, something ancient, like it had been waiting here for centuries. The floorboards creaked underfoot as I moved through the dark, empty room. In the corner, I noticed a small table with a lantern, its flame flickering dimly. On the wall above it, there was a large map of the surrounding area, with red markings circling different spots in the woods. And at the center of the map, a large black spot. The hollow. But what caught my attention wasn't the map, it was the photograph pinned to the wall next to it. It was a picture of a child. A boy. But not just any boy. Me. I leaned closer, my heart racing. The photo was dated 1983, 2 years before I was born. I could barely make out the features, but the boy in the picture had the same crooked smile I had as a child. And a scar on his cheek, the same one I'd gotten when I fell off the rope swing back in '97. I turned away, my mind spinning. But as I did, I saw something else, another photograph. This one was different. It was a picture of a group of children, all standing in front of a large tree, their faces covered in shadows. Their eyes. They were wide open, but their expressions were blank. Empty. I felt the room close in on me. Part 5: The truth. I stumbled backward, my hand brushing the table as I moved toward the door. It was all too much. I couldn't comprehend it. How was this possible? I had to get out of there. I had to leave, but the road, the hollow road, it wasn't the same anymore. It was different. There was no turning back. And I couldn't run, because I knew it wouldn't let me. The hollow had already taken me. And it was waiting. I ran. Part 6: The chase. My legs felt like lead as I sprinted through the woods, each branch I brushed against seeming to whisper my name. The darkness closed in, thick and suffocating. I couldn't see the path anymore, the road, everything was just trees, endless trees, growing closer and closer like a tightening noose. But it didn't matter. The air was heavy, pressing in around me. I had to escape. The hollow wouldn't stop. It would follow me until I gave in. Until it had what it wanted. I stumbled over a rock, falling hard to the ground. The rough soil scraped my palms, the scent of dirt filling my nose. I pushed myself up, gasping for breath, and continued running, not caring if I was lost. There was only one thing I knew for certain: I couldn't let them catch me. Not the hollow, not the shadows, not the figures watching from the trees. I ran until I couldn't run anymore. And then, like something out of a nightmare, I heard it, A whisper. A voice. I stopped dead in my tracks, my heart pounding in my chest. The voice was soft, almost sweet, yet there was something deeply unsettling about it. It felt like it was inside my head, echoing in my skull. It wasn't a voice I recognized, yet it sounded so familiar. "Come back," it said. "It's too late." I tried to ignore it, to push it away, but it kept calling to me, getting louder and louder. The ground beneath me seemed to shift, the trees bending as though they were alive. The wind howled, but not in a natural way. It was the wind of the hollow, the wind that carried the lost souls and the shadows that had been waiting for me. I turned and ran again, my feet slipping on the wet ground. But the forest wouldn't let me go. It had already taken hold of me. And as I ran, I could hear the footsteps behind me, too close, too fast, almost as if they were in my very own mind. I wasn't sure if it was the hollow chasing me, or if it was me chasing me, the hollow version of myself that had been born in this place. The trees around me began to close in, the shadows stretching long and dark. I tried to find my bearings, to remember which way I'd come from, but it was all a blur. Nothing made sense. The world was upside down. Then, I saw it. Part 7. The Mirror. There, in the clearing ahead, stood a large, ornate mirror. It was framed in black wood, its surface cracked and worn from the years, yet it reflected the dark woods behind me as if it were still new. I stopped, confused. It was impossible. There had never been a mirror here before. I hesitated, my breath catching in my throat. I didn't want to look. But something, a force beyond my control, pulled me forward. I had to see what was in that mirror. Maybe it was the only way to escape. I approached cautiously, my hand trembling as I reached out toward the glass. I touched it. Cold. The chill ran through my fingertips, a jolt of ice through my veins. But I didn't pull away. And that's when I saw it. The reflection wasn't mine. It was a version of me, but twisted. A shadow. Hollow. It stood there, staring at me with cold, lifeless eyes. Its face was pale, drawn tight, as if the very essence of life had been drained from it. The figure moved, raising its hand slowly as if it were trying to reach out. To touch me. I took a step back, but the figure in the mirror did not move. It waited. I could feel the weight of its gaze, the silent call, like a sickening pull at the pit of my stomach. It was me, but it wasn't. It was a version of myself that had never left this place. One that had become part of the hollow, part of the forest, part of everything that had been lost. My heart raced, my breathing shallow. The figure in the mirror raised its hand again, beckoning. And then, in a flash, I realized something. It wasn't just the hollow that was calling me. It was the other me, the version of myself that had never escaped. It had been here the whole time, waiting for me to come back, to complete what had been broken. I stepped forward. The mirror was no longer a reflection, it was a doorway. Part 8. Into the hollow. I didn't hesitate. I stepped into the mirror, and the world shifted around me. It wasn't like falling. It was more like sinking. like the ground beneath me was made of liquid, pulling me into the very earth, into the center of the hollow itself. And then, everything stopped. I was standing in a vast, endless void. There were no trees here, no sky, just darkness. A thick, suffocating blackness that stretched on forever. And in the distance, I saw it. A figure. The hollow version of myself, standing in the distance, just out of reach. It didn't move. It didn't speak. But I could feel its presence, the weight of its existence pressing down on me. It was me, but it wasn't. A fractured reflection of my soul, waiting. And it was calling me. I took a step forward, the ground beneath my feet crackling with a sound like breaking glass. Another step. And then I was walking, though I didn't know where I was going. The figure ahead remained still, watching me with those cold, empty eyes. It didn't try to run. It just waited. Part 9: The Choice. I stopped. I couldn't go any further. Not yet. There was something about this place that made it feel like I had always been here. Like I had never left. And in a strange way, that terrified me. Because it meant that everything I had experienced, the memories of my life, the reasons I had left Marrow Creek, had been nothing but a lie. What if this was it? What if I was stuck in the hollow, forever trapped in a cycle that could never end? Would I ever be able to return? I had to make a choice. I had to either leave or become part of the hollow. I looked back, but the doorway was gone. I was alone, stuck in this dark place, facing my own reflection. But then, I heard the voice again. The voice that had been calling me since I first stepped onto this road. The voice of the hollow. Come back. You never left. You never will. And in that moment, I understood. I had left. But I had also come back. I was always going to come back. It was part of the deal. I turned toward the figure. And as I took a step forward, I could feel the hollow version of me reach out. It didn't speak, but I could hear its thoughts in my mind, its cold, empty words wrapping around me like chains. You've come home, it whispered. And with that, I knew. There was no escaping. Not anymore. Part 10: The Awakening. I took another step forward, feeling a strange pull at my chest, like invisible strings tightening around my heart. The air in this place was thick, heavy with an unnatural weight that pressed down on me, making it difficult to breathe. The hollow was not just a place. It was alive, pulsing with a dark energy that seemed to seep into my very soul. As I moved closer to the figure, I could feel the presence of something else, a force, an essence, something ancient. It was watching me, and I knew without a doubt that it had been waiting for me to return. Waiting for me to come back to where I truly belonged. I reached out, my fingers trembling as they neared the hollow version of myself. But just before I could make contact, the air around me began to shift. The world blurred. I felt a sharp, violent pull at the center of my being, as if I were being ripped apart at the seams. My body screamed in protest, every muscle tensing, every nerve firing. I could feel the dark energy of the hollow coursing through me, filling me with something cold, something wrong. I gasped, choking on the air that had turned thick with dread. And then, the figure, the hollow version of me, spoke. "Welcome home, brother." Its voice was a hollow echo, reverberating through the void. But there was something familiar about it. Something that struck me deep inside, like an old memory, a dream from long ago. The figure smiled, but it wasn't a smile of joy. It was a smile of knowing. A smile that told me everything I needed to know. "You were always meant to return. You were always a part of this place. You were never meant to leave," it whispered. A chill ran down my spine as its words sank in. It was right. I had always felt that pull, that strange connection to Marrow Creek, to the hollow. It had never left me. The memories, the darkness, the dread, it had been part of me all along. I had tried to run, to escape, but now I understood. The hollow was in my blood. It was my past, my present, and my future. There was no escaping it. Suddenly, the ground beneath me trembled, a low, resonating hum filling the air. The trees, the shadows, the very essence of the hollow seemed to awaken, as if they had been waiting for this moment. The reflection of the figure in the distance began to twist and change, stretching, shifting like something unnatural. And as it did, I felt it, an overwhelming wave of dark power flooding through me, filling me with a sense of dread and longing. I looked down at my hands. They were no longer mine. They were the hands of the hollow version of me, twisted and malformed, black veins crawling up my arms like ivy. I wanted to scream, to cry out, but no sound escaped my lips. I was becoming part of it. Part of the hollow. The voice, the hollow version of me, laughed. A cold, hollow sound that echoed through the void. "You can't escape," it said. "You've always been a part of this place. You always will be." The world around me began to dissolve, the trees, the shadows, the empty void, all merging into one dark, infinite abyss. I could feel myself falling, sinking deeper into the darkness, and I knew there was no way back. No way to escape the hollow. I was becoming it. But then, in the distance, a flicker of light appeared. A tiny, fragile light in the far corner of the void, barely visible, but enough to catch my attention. It was small, but it was there. I felt a strange pull, a desire to reach it. To escape. To find a light, to break free from the suffocating darkness that had swallowed me whole. Part 11. The light. I forced myself to move, my legs feeling like lead as I pushed through the darkness, stumbling over the shifting ground. The void seemed to stretch on forever, the light growing smaller and smaller with every step. But I couldn't stop. I had to reach it. The hollow was consuming me, pulling me deeper into its grip, but this light, this tiny flicker of hope, was my only chance. I had to get to it. As I moved closer, the darkness seemed to fight back, reaching out, tugging at my limbs, trying to drag me back. I resisted, my breath ragged, my body screaming in pain, but I couldn't stop. I couldn't give up. I had come too far. And then, just as I was about to give in to the suffocating darkness, I reached it. The light. It wasn't like anything I had ever seen before. It wasn't bright, not like the sun or a lamp. It was soft, gentle, almost like a memory of light. It wasn't harsh or blinding, it was pure. And as I stepped into its glow, I felt something shift inside of me. The coldness of the hollow, the weight of the darkness, all of it began to lift. For the first time since I entered this place, I could breathe. I looked around, my surroundings now bathed in the soft, gentle light. The void was still there, but it didn't feel as oppressive anymore. The light felt like a refuge, a place where I could breathe, a place where the hollow's grip wasn't so strong. I looked down at my hands again. They were mine now. Normal. Human. No more shadows, no more twisting black veins. I was no longer the hollow version of myself. I was free. Or so I thought. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the light. You can't escape. I turned around, my heart racing. It was the hollow. The darkness. It was calling to me again, this time from inside the light itself. And in that moment, I understood the truth. The hollow was not just a place. It was a part of me. It always had been. And there was no escaping it. Part 12: The End of the Road. The light flickered, dimming as the voice grew louder, stronger. The darkness pulled at me once again, as if the void were trying to consume me whole. I stepped backward, but my feet were rooted to the ground. I couldn't move. The hollow was coming. And there was no escape. The reflection of myself stood in the distance, its hollow, lifeless eyes staring at me, waiting. It was waiting for me to accept it. To become it. The voice whispered one final time, its words now clear and resonating in my mind. You belong to us. I closed my eyes, accepting my fate. The hollow had always been a part of me. And now, it would take me in fully. I was lost, forever. And the darkness enveloped me once again.